All right. Well, hello, Pastor Jeff here, lead pastor at the Middletown campus of Grace Community Church. And I wanted to take a few moments to talk with you about one of our team values. As a matter of fact, it's the first of 10 team values, and it's the value that we call kneel before you run. And this value is listed first very intentionally because we believe that everything we do should come from a place of desperation. And I love this next word, dependence on God. We have a race to run for sure when it comes to doing ministry and being about the ministry that God's called us to in Orange County and beyond. But we must first kneel in submission and devotion to God before we begin. Oftentimes ministry can actually become a distraction from our personal walk with the Lord. And so soon what we end up doing is sacrificing intimacy for productivity. And so instead, we believe that our number one priority should be to start everything with prayer and submission flowing from this genuine heart from God. And so we're not drawing out of a dry reservoir, but we're giving out of what the Holy Spirit's already doing within us. This first value, in all reality, it gives muscle and direction to the other 9 values that kind of proceed this first one. For a runner, and I've ran for several years now, this is the equivalent of really being adequately prepared, for a long run. It's so important for a runner to just make his or her mind up to go for a long run, right? I mean, you schedule this out. Maybe you've got a short run, interval training, and you've got a long run scheduled each week. It's important to make your mind up, just to go for the run. But here's the deal. What are those things that allow us to not just complete a run, but also, stay focused on the run, on the challenge at hand. And if you're not a runner, this next part may seem kind of bizarre, but even enjoying the run, because that's really what, most runners eventually want to get to. Well, it's very practical things. Things like nutrition, right? I mean, you before the run and having some supplies on hand during the run. That's water or Gatorade, something with some potassium, something to replace electrolytes in your system so you're not cramping up the whole time. You want to make sure you're rested. You're not jumping into a 10, 15, 20 or mile run or beyond that on 2 hours of sleep, when your body is going to be craving rest before you even take off. Things like stretching, right? Because without stretching, you're going to blow a hamstring, maybe a groin or a calf muscle. You're going to hurt a knee. You could hurt your hips or even your back if you're not taking the time, to stretch properly. So, those are some very practical things that you do to make sure that you're prepared for the mileage to come. As a matter of fact, just a couple years ago, I completed a local race here in the Hudson Valley, and it was a race that required me to complete 70.3 miles within a certain time frame. The race started with this 1.2 mile swim, and I absolutely crushed it. I mean, probably the best, if not one of the best swims of my life. I was one of the first ones out of the water. Pulled my wetsuit off, got on my bike. I completed just over 56 miles on the bike. Again, one of my best rides to date on the bike. I got off my bike, dismounted, didn't do as great as probably what I should have done, hydrating and staying hydrated and, putting the right nutrition amounts in me, because I thought I was feeling good. I didn't feel like I needed it. And so I got off the bike and I began the last segment of the race, which is a half marathon, 13.1 miles on foot. And I was doing okay. I was doing well, but about mile 7 or 8, hey, listen, I hit this wall like you would not believe. I had cramps in places I didn't even know you could get cramps. Things got so bad that I actually finished the race by picking up my leg and putting it down just so it would move. That is how bad things had gotten. Because I wasn't prepared and I didn't do the things to be prepared for the mileage ahead, it cost me a spot on the platform, on the winners platform. If I had done things the way I should have been, I could have lasted and I could have finished the race strong. Here's the deal, okay? Ministry should not be a sprint for any of us. It just shouldn't. We can go really fast when it comes to ministry. We can go really fast on our own. We can jump out and do things really quick and do things really well apart from the Holy Spirit for a time. So you can go fast or you can go far. And I believe the kneel before you run value preaches, it calls us to go far. It calls us to this place of desperation and dependence on the Holy Spirit, knowing that, doing things well for the long term comes from an intimate relationship with Jesus. Meaning it is critical for us as leaders, as volunteers, as staff at Grace Community Church to properly prepare for the mileage ahead of us. How? How is that? Again, I keep alluding to it, by maintaining a deep and authentic dependence upon the Holy Spirit. Sometimes that may mean sacrificing productivity, but as long as it's for the sake of intimacy, I think it's actually going to allow us to be more productive in the long run. That's how we prepare for the challenges that are ahead of us. And so here's the sad reality. I've been in ministry since I was 19 years old. And since that time, I've had some of my very best friends. I've had roommates, friends, men and women that I've been on staff with, volunteers that I've been in the trenches with, believe that this reality didn't apply to them, that they were too gifted, that they would someday at some point eventually, catch up spiritually to doing ministry. And sadly, I've seen far too many of them crash and burn. I've seen families and I've seen marriages firsthand destroyed. Individuals who have more potential than I could ever have, more potential than maybe some of you could have, totally sacrifice that because they refused to kneel before they ran. And so as I wrap up right now, I want to ask you to make this commitment with me right now, okay? Refuse to sacrifice your intimacy with Jesus for your productivity. Instead, kneel before you run. Do the preparation for ministry ahead of time. And then, here's the good part, and here's the exciting part. Be prepared to marvel at someday at the mileage that you've completed because you maintained prayer and submission to God. Covenant right now with the Holy Spirit, maybe with a group of friends. Covenant right now to value your spiritual health before you value doing ministry or doing anything else. Ask right now if the Holy Spirit give you a desperation and a dependence on Him like few have ever experienced before. And then stay prepared for the next mile. Hey, thanks for taking some time to check this out.